I get the feeling that Saber was hoping for a specific reaction to the modifiers that negatively impact specific classes. And that reaction was probably something along the lines of people say the game can be too easy because they main a certain class. I'm not too sure if you like main a class if it makes the game more easy, but hey, you know what? Maybe you're just more comfortable playing that class, okay? With these modifiers, they will appreciate the extra challenge to their favorite class and encourage variety so they can play the different classes, when in reality it's a case of, oh, it's got that, okay, not playing the class then. I mean, to be honest, I genuinely think the devs were aiming to just gatekeep certain classes from certain from certain stratagems. As far as like, if you see the sniper nerf modifier on a stratagem and jump in with sniper, you are crazy. You probably should not be doing that. As far as the actual issue with the class nerf, I think it really just comes down to players who haven't been able to level up other classes, and then like they maybe jump into hard stratagems like level 18 prestige 3, but they're a little bit overwhelmed with what's going on. You know, if you main a certain class, I feel like if you start another class, it's like learning a new game. So if you put 100 hours into sniper and then you see a sniper nerf modifier, but then jump into hard stratagems with your leveling bulwark, you're gonna have a hard time. I don't know if the devs wanted that intention either, to be completely honest. I'm genuinely confused with the class nerf stuff, because on one hand, you can just use a different class, and then on the other hand, it's like whoever can't do that just gets the shortest end of the stick or whatever. They seriously get absolutely gatekeeped from that stratagem. So I do think the class nerf modifiers are definitely discussion worthy, just because I think they're weird. I'm not too sure what the devs were aiming at there. Sure, it makes you have options so you don't keep one-tricking a class. Variety is a good thing, but also the modifiers literally just put on severe handicaps on the class, which screams we're punishing you for playing insert class here, even though it's been a huge part of your enjoyment for the game. Yeah, I don't know. I genuinely don't find them to be satisfying modifiers at all. I mean, on the other hand, I have seen some people mention that at least the class nerf modifiers, at the very least, they replace a negative modifier that could have been much worse. So, I mean, that's pretty good. That's honestly pretty good. Then you pick another class, avoiding the modifier altogether. Yeah, I know. No, I agree. I just don't understand why the devs did that. I don't think when we checked out the positive modifiers, we checked out a list of all of the conditions in the game. I don't think there was a positive class modifier where like the sniper for whatever reason gets more health and more damage and has even more parry windows, even though if you're using a fencing weapon, you can't get any more parry windows. But okay, let's continue. However, the modifier might as well not be there anymore if everyone else is going as any other class besides the ones that are handicapped. Instead, we don't have a positive modifier where it gives extra benefits to a specific class. Stuff like the specific class being able to carry 2 extra stims, or they deal increased damage or have more armor segments. Dude, it would be kind of cool if they had a positive modifier where you could just start a mission with a stim, but then, like, honestly, that actually would work. The only difficulties, the only missions that you can start with a stim, I believe, is minimal. I don't even think average lets you start with a stim. So if there was a condition for that, I think that'd be kind of cool. This way, people will want to play that class for the additional benefits, even if it's one that doesn't play often. Just feel like it would be a fair addition. Yeah, like instead of a trade-off, there could be class nerf modifiers, but also class buff modifiers. I like the idea of that. I genuinely just like the idea of a condition where you just start the stratagem with a stim. I think that would be pretty cool. But yeah, I guess we gotta see how players react to this one, because yeah, I always thought the class modifiers were odd. I mean, at the same time, I mean, this person seems to think that class modifiers replace a positive one, or at the very least, they think there should be a positive one. But for real, like when it comes to negative modifiers, the class modifiers really aren't even that bad. Like, you really do just avoid them completely, which makes me think like there could be something more useful there. You know what I mean? But yeah, ultimately, it is just you really do just avoid it completely. It just shows how bad of a game design this thing is. It's not to be engaged with, and the only reason you want a class debuff is for skipping a worse modifier. Yeah, no, exactly. It doesn't, I just don't think it applies correctly. As far as like a bad game design, I think they're referring to the actual class nerf condition. I don't think they're referring to stratagems. I think stratagems, unfortunately and fortunately, sometimes the randomness can be a positive or a negative. That is the nature with RNG. I am baffled by the fact we're looking at stratagems as if it was a casino, hoping for a good map with okay-ish modifiers. Well, I have to be honest, what we've seen recently with dailies is dailies are 100% random, because we've seen exfiltration daily that also turned off grenades. In case you don't know, you need grenades for an objective in that operation, so if you can't use grenades, you actually can't even complete the operation, leaving a dead daily in the stratagems mode, which is unfortunate, which is definitely unfortunate. But honestly, I'd rather the devs, I would rather the devs make sure that dailies can be completed 100%, of course. But I do like the devs' approach to the weeklies. I genuinely think the devs made the weeklies this week a little bit easier on purpose. Simply put, because of the hidden modifiers and perhaps some of the stuff that people weren't able to complete in the past. It is what it is, as far as weeklies and, you know, devastating dailies or whatever. But yeah, I do think the bad design comes with the fact that they have conditions in the game that can brick modes, or sorry, that can brick missions, which is, that's poorly designed. I agree. Honestly, who really asked to turn off grenades for a condition? I do appreciate that we have a lot of conditions, which is cool, but I feel like they could definitely take out like a handful of negative and a handful of positive ones. Maybe like 3 from each that just don't make sense. Yeah, not being able to use grenades, I just don't see that to be fun, to be completely honest. It's not like a good negative modifier either, because again, you can just run a build that doesn't use grenades. But like things like less health, I think is much more appropriate for a punishing modifier. You know what I mean? Like that's actually something that it's like, okay, no matter my build, I'm going to take a lot of damage. And yeah, you have to play around that. But yeah, obviously they've adjusted that one as well because it was a little bit too punishing. I'd just like to select my stratagems, just like in Hades and Heat Mechanic, to be honest. More modifiers equals more currency and Viola. I think that's because the reason we can't pick modifiers, I think, is because if you saw some of the modifiers, there are some positive ones that are completely like overpowered. Full heals on a handshake. Kind of insane, like genuinely kind of insane. I feel like a rework of the modifiers may be needed. I think some of the modifiers should have a trade-off so the normal missions can have a good perk, a bad perk, and a trade-off perk. While the hard ones have a good perk, then either 2 bad perks and a trade-off, or 2 trade-offs and a bad perk. I think the class nerf ones should be a trade-off perk. Your health is halved, but the class abilities buff lasts longer, 3 charges instead of 2, greater area of effect, for example. I actually like the idea of that. I'm not too sure about the economy of like 2 bad perks or trade-off perks, whatever. That's neither here or there. I like the idea of improving the class nerf modifiers to be a trade-off for that class. I like that idea much better because then you can actually work with it. you can actually like interact with that modifier instead of just ignoring it completely. I like this idea. I like this idea a lot. I would half health but double the damage, probably something like that. Maybe. I guess it really depends, but yeah, something like that would be pretty interesting. Maybe half health, but like a quarter of the buff, you know, a quarter, like 25% buff damage, something like that. I really like this idea, though. I definitely think they should improve the class nerf modifier to be more interactive, 100%. The top line that everyone is missing is that this will not get people to consider playing another class or trying something new. Yes, that's what I think is the issue with these modifiers. 100%. People are just going to ignore them. They will just log out. That is how people work. And that is not good for the game. When you design something that gets people to turn off your game, you failed utterly. I mean, okay. I mean, yeah, fair. As far as, yeah, if there's a sniper who wanted to do stratagems and every daily and every weekly nerfs a sniper for some reason, yeah, in that case, they'll log off. But luckily, we have other options for stratagems. But yeah, I do understand what they're getting at there, for sure. If this is exactly what I was talking about when we were talking about how difficult stratagems were. It's basically like, okay, so you want to make sure that it is interactive for the majority of your player base. At the very least, rewards has a lot to play with that. So, like, if normal stratagems actually gave you some pretty good rewards, then I don't think anyone would genuinely care how hard stratagems are or how punishing hard stratagems are. But right now, we have this, like, kind of this weird blend of casuals and sweats trying their best to do normal and hard modes and everything. So I think ultimately modifiers like sniper nerfs just make it a little less interactive. When we're already playing around a lot of RNG, it's kind of odd to just like sign in and, you know, see some daily stratagems that you like, but then see some that you don't. I don't know. I think the random nature of it is definitely something that the devs might need to take a look at, considering that we had a bricked operation the other day, which I can show you guys a post about that real quick. 9/16/2025 exfiltration hard stratagem cannot be completed. Yeah, right here. Equipment malfunction. Equipment cannot be used. It's exfiltration. You literally need a melta to complete this operation. Yeah, things like this is definitely where I think the devs need to look at dailies and their randomness. But I also think equipment malfunction and the class nerf modifiers should straight up just be taken out of the game. Hey, yeah, right here. Heavy burden. This is literally the class nerf modifier. Just take it out of the game. Take it out of the game. I don't like modifiers that literally just don't let you do something. Like, could you imagine a modifier where it's like no melee? You're not allowed to melee swing. It's like, what? Why? I guess grenades can be a little bit overpowered. At the very least, this should be grenades half damage. That's what it should be. Not just straight up grenades are off. It should be grenades half damage. Because then it's like, oh, wow, shot grenades are what you want for this mode. You know, like that's interactive. That is interactive. Turning off grenades, not interactive. Turning off the heavy's health, not interactive. Yeah, the heavy nerf, you know what I mean. It's just not very interactive. You can literally just play sniper in this mission and not really worry about heavy burden at all. So, not really the coolest condition here. But yeah, let me know in the comments how you guys feel about this one. I definitely think, obviously, the devs need to improve daily stratagems or improve modifiers. But now that we are starting to notice which ones are more punishing and they get adjusted, we're going to have to start noticing the ones that just don't work at all. And to me, equipment malfunction should be nerfed grenade damage, and obviously the class nerfs should be a trade-off. It should be heavy will have less health, but also deal more damage. That would be cool. That would be cool. But yeah, let me know in the comments how you guys feel about this, and thanks for watching.